I ran barefoot through the market, screaming. People threw stones. Some laughed. Others crossed the street. They called me mad, but no one asked why. Claire, my stepmother. Welcome back to Noble Revenge Stories, where truth cuts deeper than fiction. Before we dive into today's shocking tale, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. We love seeing how far our stories travel. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a twist. I still remember the day she entered our home, wearing grief like jewelry, smiling too brightly for a widow's guest, and walking too confidently through the hallway that once echoed with my mother's laughter. My mother had been buried barely 6 months. I was only 12. She will take care of you, my father said. Clara is kind. But kindness has a face, and hers didn't wear it. At first she pretended. She cooked meals I hated and called it love. She bought me secondhand clothes and said I was lucky. But the truth lived in her eyes. The type of woman who smiles with her teeth but plots with her silence. My father, he was blind. Or maybe just tired. Losing my mother had broken something in him. He wasn't the same man. The laughter in his chest grew quiet. His hands, once warm, grew cold. And when Clara came, he clung to her like a drowning man to driftwood, even if that wood was full of termites. She didn't hit me. No, that would have been too obvious. Clara was smarter than that. Her abuse was quiet, clean, surgical. She started with my meals. One day there was sugar in my rice. The next, pepper in my pap. Then salt replaced with soap, just a pinch, enough to confuse, not enough to kill. Maybe she's losing taste, she'd say sweetly when I complained. Then came the whispers. She talks to herself, I once heard her say to the pastor. She sees shadows in her dreams. She doesn't remember her own name sometimes. And I began to wonder, was it true? I started forgetting things, little things at first. Where I placed my shoes. Whether I'd locked the door. My school notes began to make no sense. Numbers danced. Letters laughed. Then the fog crept in. Thick, suffocating. Some nights I'd hear laughter in my room. I'd wake up soaked in sweat, convinced someone had stood over me, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. Other times I'd feel fingers on my neck, only to find nothing. I told my father. He said I needed prayer. Clara took me to a native doctor. They burned leaves under my bed, tied charms to my ankle, made me swallow bitter roots. But nothing helped, because nothing was wrong with me. At least not in the way they thought. Clara had been poisoning me. Not with acid or arsenic, but with fear, confusion, manipulation. A slow mental unraveling designed to look like madness. And I was falling for it. One afternoon I caught her. She didn't know I was home early. I walked into the kitchen to find her bent over my flask, sprinkling something from a pouch. When she turned and saw me, she didn't jump. She smiled. You're back, she said, sealing the flask. I made your favorite. I didn't respond. I just stared. That night, I poured the contents of the flask into the toilet. The next day, she didn't smile. Then came the dreams, horrific, bloody, real. I saw my mother's face crying. I saw myself drowning. I woke up screaming. My hair fell out in chunks. I bit my nails until they bled. I stopped laughing. Then I stopped talking. That was when people began to notice. She's not right, neighbors whispered. Something is wrong with that girl, the traders said. And Clara? She played her role perfectly. She needs help, she told the church women. We're doing everything we can. But no one helped. Not really. They watched me crumble, applauded my stepmother's strength, and pitted my father's misfortune. Then came the breaking. It was a Saturday. I had gone to the market alone. I remember standing in front of a yam seller trying to calculate change when suddenly the world began to spin. Voices, hundreds of them, crashed into my ears. Laughter. Screams. Clara's voice. My mother's crying. My own. The ground tilted. And I ran. I don't know why. I just ran. Down the market road. Through the dust. Past familiar faces that blurred like smoke. I screamed. I clutched my head and screamed. People turned. She's mad, someone shouted. Yeah. See Grace O. She Don Colo. The laughter chased me like dogs. My slippers tore. My wrapper came loose. I ran barefoot, arms flailing, mouth foaming, fear ripping through every bone in my body. And when I collapsed near the drainage, shaking, sobbing, broken, no one came for me. No father. No friend. No one. Clara didn't look for me. She didn't need to. Her work was done. I became the girl mothers warned their daughters about. Don't walk like her. Don't stare like her. Don't end up like Grace. Children mocked me. Men tried to touch me. Women threw stones at me to chase me from their stalls. I stopped sleeping. I lived in gutters. I drank rainwater. I wore clothes I found in trash piles. The voices became my companions. Sometimes they mocked me. Other times they comforted me. But always they reminded me I was alone. I forgot what year it was. I stopped counting time. I stopped caring. Then one day I caught my reflection in a broken mirror shard, and I screamed, that was me? This girl with hollow eyes and sunburnt skin? This creature with matted hair and bleeding feet? No, it wasn't. But no matter how much I screamed, no one heard. No matter how much I wept, no one came. I was lost. The world had turned its back. And I had turned mad. That was the day my name died. I wasn't Grace anymore. I was the mad girl at Betrayal Junction. And no one, not even God it seemed, remembered who I used to be. They say when a person loses their mind, they become unreachable. But the truth is, even in madness, the soul still remembers pain, and it still longs to be seen. I don't know how long I lived on the streets. Time melted together, one burning sunrise after another. My feet were blistered from wandering. My tongue dry from thirst. My body a ghost of who I used to be. I stopped counting days and just existed. A breathing shadow in a world that had forgotten me. I had become something for people to fear or mock. Mad girl, they'd shout. Run. She'll bite you. Some days they threw stones. Other days breadcrumbs. But mostly they just passed by, faces turned away, eyes full of pity, disgust, or worse, amusement. And I laughed sometimes, cried other times. But mostly I just stared. Through people. Through days. Through my own memories. Then one day someone didn't look away. It was a Tuesday. The sun was high and cruel, baking the dust beneath the mango tree where I sat, my usual corner near Betrayal Junction. I was talking to a bird that had landed beside me, whispering secrets I didn't understand. That's when I noticed him. He was standing across the road. Tall, simple, calm. He didn't have the usual look. He wasn't repulsed. He wasn't scared. He just stood there, watching. Not with the gaze of someone curious about a freak show, but someone trying to solve a mystery gently without breaking it. I hissed at him like I usually did when people stared. Go. I screamed, my voice cracking. Leave me alone. He didn't move. Just kept standing, hands tucked in his pockets. God. It confused me. No one stayed. Later that day, I found a small loaf of bread and a bottle of clean water beside the bench where I sat. Neatly placed. Not tossed at me like I was a stray dog. Just left with quiet dignity. I stared at them for a long time. Part of me thought it was a trap. Maybe poisoned. Maybe a trick. But another part, the part of me that still remembered kindness, whispered, eat. So I did. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't throw up. The next day he came again. This time he sat on a bench a few feet away. Didn't speak. Didn't even look directly at me. Just sat. Quiet. Like he belonged there. The day after that he said, "Good morning, Grace." My head snapped up. Grace. He called me by name. No one had said that name in years. Not even I. I scowled. Who told you? He smiled but didn't answer. Instead he set down a small package, clean wipes, a slice of cake, and a scarf. I threw a rock at him. He didn't flinch. He just left it there, and came back the next day. And the day after that. Always the same routine, food, water, something small and kind, and the name. Good morning, Grace. Slowly I began to wait for him. I hated it. Hated the flutter in my chest when I saw his blue shirt from a distance. Hated how I sat a little straighter, smoothed my hair, even wiped my face with torn fabric. One day he brought a mirror. Not big. Just a small, clean round one with a purple handle. He held it out and said softly, "You're still in there. I want you to see her." I laughed. Then screamed. Then cursed him with words I didn't know I remembered. But he didn't run. He just set the mirror beside me and whispered, "I'll wait." No one had ever said that to me before. I didn't touch the mirror for 3 days. But on the fourth, curiosity won. I held it with trembling hands and looked. And what I saw made me drop it. My face. Or what was left of it. My skin was cracked. My eyes, sunken. My hair, wild. My lips were dry, bruised, and twitching. I looked like something from the other side of sanity. But under all that, buried beneath the dirt and madness, I saw her. Me. Grace. The girl I used to be. And for the first time in forever, I cried. Not like the fits of wailing and screaming the world had seen, but quiet, real tears that slipped down my cheeks like they were escaping a prison. That day I didn't hiss at him. That day I said, "Why?" He tilted his head. "Why what? Why, help me?" His answer? "Because you're not invisible to me." The next week he brought a small old car. He stood by the open door and said, "Come with me, just for one night. There's no one to laugh there. No one to hurt you. I can't force you, but I want to help." I froze. Every instinct screamed, "Don't trust." But something deeper, something tired and bruised inside, whispered, "Try." So I stood, shaky, weak, barefoot. He didn't cheer or make a show of it. He just walked beside me like it was the most natural thing in the world. He wrapped a soft blanket around me, opened the passenger door, and waited. I sat in that car like a stranger in my own skin. He drove slowly, calmly. No questions. No radio. Just silence, and the steady hum of possibility. His house wasn't big. Just a bungalow with a small gate and a garden full of orange hibiscus. Inside was clean. He showed me a room. A bed. A clean towel. I hesitated in the doorway. He looked at me and said gently, "No one will touch you here." I nodded, and I believed him. That night I bathed, with soap, and warm water, and dignity. Then I crawled into the bed, clean sheets, fluffy pillow, and closed my eyes. The voices didn't scream that night. They whispered, softly, confused, "Where are we?" And for once, I didn't answer, because I didn't feel mad. I felt seen. And maybe, just maybe, I was home. When I woke up the next morning, I thought I had died. The air smelled like lavender soap and fresh bread. The sunlight streaming through the white curtains didn't burn. It hugged. The mattress beneath me was so soft I thought it was floating. For a moment, I stared at the ceiling, waiting for the world to snap back into chaos. But it didn't. I was still in David's house. Still clean. Still alive. I sat up slowly, expecting the wave of dizziness, the panic, the voices. But all I heard was the sound of birds chirping outside the window and the distant clink of plates. I was terrified. Not because I felt unsafe, but because I felt safe. And I didn't know what to do with that. A soft knock on the door made me flinch. I pulled the blanket around me tightly. "It's just me," David's voice came through gently. "There's food on the table if you're hungry. No pressure." I didn't answer. He didn't insist. After a while, curiosity won. My stomach growled with a force that overpowered fear. I opened the door and peeked out like a rabbit emerging from a den. The living room was simple, cream walls, a few framed photos of nature, a bookshelf stacked with medical texts, and a wooden cross hanging above the doorway. David was in the kitchen pouring tea. When he saw me, he smiled, not too wide, not too familiar, just enough to say, "You're welcome here." He didn't say, "Good morning." He didn't ask how I slept. He just pulled out a chair, gestured toward a bowl of warm yam porridge and said, "You can eat here or take it back to your room. Your choice." I stared at the food. Steam rose like a silent invitation. I sat, ate slowly, cautiously. Every bite felt like a betrayal to the version of me that had learned to survive on scraps. But my body welcomed it. My hands trembled from shock more than fear. David didn't speak while I ate. He didn't watch me. He just sat across the table, sipping his tea, reading a book titled Trauma and the Brain. That was the first time I realized he wasn't just kind, he was intentional. After breakfast, he handed me a soft white hoodie and gray joggers. "If you're comfortable, we can wash the clothes you wore in. You can keep these." They were clean, unstained, real clothes. Not donations. Not rags. I didn't deserve them. But I took them anyway. I changed slowly in the bathroom, locking the door 3 times. When I looked in the mirror, something strange happened. I didn't look entirely mad anymore. Still hollow, still bruised, but present. That day I didn't speak much. But I watched. David worked from home. He had a small room with medical charts on the wall, a laptop, and sticky notes everywhere. He checked patients' records, made calls, jotted things down. But every few hours he came to check on me, not with questions but with gestures. "Would you like some fruit? I'm stepping out to buy medicine. Do you want to sit outside in the sun? Here's a blanket if the AC is too cold." Each one chipped away at the fortress I'd built around myself. On the 3rd night I woke up screaming. Nightmares. My stepmother's face. Fire. Laughter. I thought he'd be angry. Or worse, terrified. Instead, David stood at the door holding a cup of tea. "Chamomile," he said softly. "Helps with rest." I was too shaken to take it, but he didn't force me. He sat on the floor outside the doorway and began to hum. The song I didn't know. A song I'd never forget. That became our rhythm. Day by day, fear loosened its grip. I started sleeping more. The voices weren't gone, but they grew quieter, like distant echoes instead of thunder. David didn't ask about my past. Not once. He never said, "Tell me what happened." But one afternoon I did. I found him on the porch, watering the hibiscus. I stood there, barefoot, holding the small mirror he'd once given me. "I used to sing," I said. He looked up, surprised, but didn't interrupt. "I was in the school choir. Before everything." I sat on the steps. My stepmother, she didn't hit me. She used other things. Herbs. Words. My father, he believed her. I paused. David stayed still, listening with his whole body. I think she made me mad on purpose. She wanted me gone. She won. He set the watering can down and walked over. "No," he said gently. "You're sitting here. Breathing. Healing. That's not losing." Tears filled my eyes. "I'm not whole," I whispered. "You're alive," he replied. "That's enough for now." And for the first time in years I believed him. Over the weeks he introduced gentle routines. Warm meals. Quiet music. Walks in the garden. Reading time. Medication, carefully with explanations. Therapy over tea, hidden in casual conversation. Every day I felt a little more human. One morning I found a note on my bedside table. "Healing is not about who hurt you. It's about who stayed." No name. But I knew it was from him. David was never loud in his care. He never tried to fix me. He just stayed, consistently, gently, lovingly. And that consistency was medicine. It didn't erase what Clara did to me. It didn't restore the years I lost. But it gave me something I never expected to find again. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the world was painted in gold, David stood in the garden and looked at me. "I'm not asking for anything," he said. "I just need you to know, you are worth more than what the world tried to make you believe." My lip trembled. "How can you see something good in me?" He smiled. "Because broken things can still be beautiful. And you, Grace, are both. Healing doesn't arrive like lightning. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself or bang on the door. Sometimes, healing tiptoes in barefoot while you're washing your face or staring out the window, and suddenly something feels different. That's how it began for me. Like the smell of rain in the air before the first drop falls. One morning I woke up before the sun. I didn't scream. I didn't hear voices. I didn't curl into a corner and rock myself into silence. I just opened my eyes and blinked into the golden blur of early morning light. There was a warmth in my chest I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't joy. Not yet. It was still too fragile for that. But it wasn't fear either. It was stillness. For a long time I lay there staring at the ceiling, memorizing the patterns in the paint. Then I got up quietly. No hesitation. No trembling. I walked barefoot to the mirror. And this time I looked. Truly looked. The reflection staring back at me wasn't the mad girl from the streets. It wasn't even the frightened, hollow version David first welcomed into his home. It was someone new. Wounded, yes. But awake. A woman who had survived hell and lived to see a sunrise. That morning I made tea. I didn't wait for David. I didn't ask permission. I just did it. As if my hands remembered who they used to be. As if my body was saying, "She's coming back." When he came into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes, he froze. I didn't look up. Just pushed the second cup toward him. He smiled, a slow and quiet kind. "You made this." I nodded. He took a sip. "It's perfect." That was the first morning we sat together in comfortable silence. No questions. No watching. Just two people, breathing the same calm air. From that day the fog in my mind began to shift. Not completely. Some days it rolled in thick again and I'd lose my footing. But on most days I was present. I remembered how to laugh. How to hum a song. How to comb my hair without hurting. David noticed too. He never said it directly, but I could see it in his eyes, pride hidden behind gentle patience. One afternoon he handed me a journal. "I thought, maybe you'd want to try writing again." I froze. My hands touched the cover like it was a sacred object. Smooth leather. Crisp, untouched pages. I ran my fingers along the spine. "What if I don't remember what to say?" I whispered. "Then write that," he said. "Write the silence. Write the pain. Or just draw lines. It's not about perfection. It's about permission. Permission." That word echoed in my chest. Permission to feel. To speak. To exist. So I opened the journal and wrote the only thing I could. "My name is Grace. I'm still here. I'm not what she did to me. And just like that, the healing became visible. A few days later, David asked if I'd like to join him on a walk to the park nearby. I hesitated. My body tensed. I hadn't been outside in weeks, not without fear, not without being the mad girl. But he waited. As always, never rushing. So I nodded. We walked in silence side by side. Birds flew overhead. The wind carried the scent of grilled corn. Children laughed in the distance. And no one stared at me. No one threw stones. No one shouted. I was just a woman walking with a man who didn't mind slowing down when I did. At the park we sat on a bench. I rested my hand on the worn wooden surface, tracing the carvings others had left behind. David turned to me and said, "Tell me one good memory." I looked at him. "From before it all went dark," he added gently. "Just one." I closed my eyes. And there it was. A melody. "I used to sing," I whispered. He smiled. "I know." My eyes opened, startled. "You do. You hum in your sleep," he said almost shyly. Softly. "Like your soul is reminding your body of who she used to be." I laughed. A full, clear laugh that startled even me. It felt like breaking a curse. "I was in the choir," I said. "In school. They always asked me to lead during Christmas. Will you sing for me someday?" "Maybe," I said. "When I remember the words. Take your time." And I knew he meant it. That night, I stood in the mirror and whispered to my reflection, "You're not crazy. You're coming back. You are Grace." But with that healing came another realization. Something was growing in my chest. Something gentle. Dangerous. No. Something I hadn't felt since I was a girl. I was falling for David. And that terrified me more than madness ever did. Because love was vulnerable. Love meant trusting again. Letting someone close enough to break you. And after everything Clara had done, after everyone who had walked away, I didn't know if I had the courage to let someone in. But David, he wasn't knocking. He was just standing outside the door. Patient. Consistent. Waiting for me to open it, on my own terms. It started with a question I wasn't ready to hear. A question I thought had been buried with the girl I used to be. David and I had just finished dinner, grilled plantain, pepper sauce, and roasted fish, the kind that melts in your mouth and fills the house with warmth. I was laughing. I don't even remember what the joke was, but I remember the sound. Mine. Light, full, real. The kind of laugh that vibrates from your belly and surprises even your own ears. He was smiling across the table, elbows resting gently beside his cup of ginger tea, and for a moment, it felt like time stood still. And then he said it. Softly. "Will you marry me, Grace?" My smile froze. The laughter died. The world, warm and golden seconds ago, suddenly felt too still. I blinked. "What?" He didn't flinch. Didn't repeat it dramatically. He just looked at me with those same gentle, unwavering eyes and nodded once. "I want to marry you." I stared at him like he'd just asked me to fly to the moon. "Me? Marry?" I dropped my spoon, hands trembling. "Is this a joke?" His brow furrowed. "No. But I'm not well. I'm still broken." "You're healing." "I've lived on the streets." "I know." I screamed in gutters. I drank dirty water. I don't even remember all the things I did. He reached across the table, gently touching my hand. "You survived things most people wouldn't live through," he said. "And you're still standing. Still rising. Still full of grace." My lips parted, but no sound came out. He leaned back, not pressing, not rushing. "I don't need you to be perfect. I don't even need you to be fully ready. I just want to walk beside you. Not as your healer. Not as your rescuer. But as your friend, your partner, your husband." I stood up abruptly, nearly knocking my chair back. "I need air," I whispered and walked out the front door. The night air was cool, brushing against my skin like water over fire. I stood beneath the stars, barefoot on the grass, hugging myself. Inside me was a war. One part of me screamed, "Don't trust it. This is a trick. All of this is too good to be true." Another part, smaller, quieter, whispered, "What if this is real?" I didn't know how to receive love anymore. I had learned how to flinch before praise. How to doubt kindness. How to wait for love to become poison. Clara had made sure of that. She taught me that affection was a trap, that safety could be a setup. And now, here was David, asking me to be his wife without ever trying to fix me, without demanding that I become someone new. I looked up at the stars and whispered to God, "Why me? Why would someone want the shell of a woman? Why would anyone choose the girl who ran through the streets foaming at the mouth?" And then I heard David behind me. He didn't come too close. He never did. I'm sorry if I rushed you, he said. You don't have to answer now. Or ever. I just wanted you to know how I feel. I turned slowly. His hands were in his pockets. His face was calm, but I could see the vulnerability behind his eyes. He had just exposed his heart, and I was standing there holding it in trembling hands. I don't know how to be a wife, I said. He nodded. We'll figure it out. I still have dark days. I still hear voices sometimes. I'll stay beside you through all of them. I'm scared. So am I. Silence. And then, I cried. Not the kind of sobbing that came from madness or fear. This was different. These tears were from disbelief. From being seen. From someone wanting me, despite everything. David took a step closer, not touching, just offering his presence like a shelter. I'm not marrying your past, he said. I'm saying yes to your present, and your future. I took a deep breath. Everything in me wanted to run. But I didn't. Instead I stepped forward. Just one small step. Don't give up on me, I whispered. Never, he replied. I didn't say yes that night. I couldn't. But I didn't say no. And that was the beginning. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of baking bread and a small box wrapped in plain brown paper on my pillow. Inside was a silver ring. Simple. No diamond. No inscription. Just a note. You can wear it when you're ready. Or never. I'll still stay. David. I held that ring in my hand for hours. Not because of what it meant to him, but what it meant to me. Just freedom. A love that didn't rush or demand but waited and believed. That week I started singing again. Not loudly. Not in front of anyone. Just small hums as I folded clothes, watered plants, journaled by the window. David never commented. But I caught him listening, eyes closed, smiling faintly, like the sound was a secret prayer being answered. And deep down I knew something sacred was happening. Not just between us, but inside me. A girl who was once broken was slowly becoming a woman who could love and be loved again. I hadn't been back to my father's house in 4 years. 4 long years since I'd run through the market streets barefoot, screaming into nothing, my world unraveling around me. 4 years since my name became a warning. Since the girl I once was had vanished beneath layers of dirt, voices, and shame. Now I stood at the edge of that village, this time with steady feet, clean clothes, and a calm heart. David parked the car a few meters away from the compound. Are you sure you want to do this? I nodded. I wasn't here for revenge. I was here to reclaim my shadow, the one Clara tried to erase. I stepped out of the car into the familiar dust. The scent of red earth. The rustling of plantain leaves. Chickens darting across the path. Nothing had changed. Except me. My heart pounded as we approached the gate. Children playing nearby froze. Their eyes widened. One dropped his toy. Another ran toward the street. Is that not? It's the mad girl. No, it can't be. She looks. I kept walking. Each step forward felt like peeling away years of pain. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again louder. Then the door creaked open. And there she was. Claire. The woman who stole my childhood. The woman who poisoned my mind and wore innocence like perfume. She looked older now. Lines around her mouth, bags beneath her eyes. But her smile was still sharp. Too sharp. Her eyes flickered as they landed on me. For a moment she looked like she had seen a ghost. Grace, she said, voice almost trembling. I stood tall. Hello, Clara. She glanced behind me, eyes narrowing when she saw David. You brought someone. I brought truth, I said. There was silence. Then she tried to recover. You look, well enough to remember, I said. Well enough to speak. She opened the door wider, gesturing for us to come in. The living room looked the same. Same faded curtains. Same cracked portrait of my father on the wall. He wasn't home. I wanted her undistracted. I didn't sit. I remember the powder in my tea, I said. I remember the laughter behind closed doors. The herbs. The whispers. The way you convinced everyone I was mad. Clara didn't deny it. She simply shrugged. You were always sensitive. You imagined things. David stepped forward, calm but firm. She didn't imagine a thing. I've reviewed her medical file. We ran blood tests. Herbal poisoning. Long-term exposure. Consistent with everything she endured. Clara's mask cracked. Just slightly. But why? I asked. Why did you hate me so much? Clara's eyes darted away, but her voice remained steady. Because your father loved you. More than he ever loved me. Every time he looked at you, he saw your mother. Her ghost lived in this house, Grace. And I was tired of competing with a dead woman. Her words landed like stone in my chest. So it had been jealousy all along. Not madness. Not curses. Not demons. Just a bitter woman who couldn't stand being second place. I took a deep breath, trying not to let my voice tremble. You stole years from me. I gave you survival, she snapped. You could have died out there, but you didn't. Be grateful. David clenched his fists, but I placed a hand on his arm. I didn't come for a fight. I came for freedom. You don't have power over me anymore, I said. And you won't poison anyone else. We've spoken with legal counsel. You'll be contacted soon. Her face drained of color. You're threatening me? No. I'm protecting the girl I used to be. I turned to leave, but she called after me. You think the world will believe a mad girl? I paused, smiled softly. The mad girl found her mind. And now she's telling her story. We left her standing there, lips pursed, eyes burning, alone in the very silence she once forced on me. As we drove back through the village, I saw people gathering at corners, whispering, pointing. But this time I wasn't hiding behind rags and shame. I held David's hand, sat with my head high. Because I wasn't returning as a broken girl. I was rising as a woman who survived. When we reached the highway, David glanced at me. You okay? I exhaled. Lighter. That night, I sat on the porch with my journal, writing by candlelight while David made tea. For the first time, my pen didn't tremble. I wrote her name, Clara, and beside it I wrote, she did not win. I'm still standing. I'm still Grace. And just like that, the final chain around my throat snapped. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need her to crumble or cry or confess everything. I just needed to walk away whole. Some scars don't fade. They don't vanish with time. They don't disappear when love finds you. They stay, etched beneath your skin like tattoos carved by fire. But I've learned something about scars. They don't have to mean you're broken. Sometimes they mean you survived. It had been 6 months since we returned from the village. 6 months since I stood face to face with the woman who tried to erase me. Clara's silence didn't surprise me. She didn't respond to the legal letters. She didn't reach out. She simply vanished back into her corner of the world, perhaps waiting for another girl to silence. But I was no longer her shadow. I was light now. A quiet, growing light. David and I didn't talk about marriage again for a while. Not because the question had faded, but because something deeper had grown in its place. Presence. Real soft daily love. Not dramatic. Not loud. But steady, like the tide. He made space for my healing, never measuring my progress by his expectations. He let me cry on random Tuesday mornings, dance barefoot on Friday nights, and write letters to the girl I used to be. He loved all of me, even the unfinished parts. One day, I walked into the kitchen to find him on his knees, not with a ring this time, but with an apron covered in flour and a smile full of mischief. I burned the bread, he said. I laughed. That's your third time this week. Fourth, he corrected. But who's counting? I walked over and wrapped my arms around him. No panic. No hesitation. Just comfort. He held me gently and whispered, I'll ask again one day. I know, I said. And this time I won't run. But the question came sooner than expected. It was on a Sunday morning. We were out in the garden planting sunflowers. My fingers were caked with dirt. My face smudged. He handed me a small seedling, and as I pressed it into the soil, he said, Grace, will you marry me, not because you're healed, but because you're healing with me? I didn't cry. I didn't freeze. I just looked at him, dirt and all, and smiled. Yes. We married under the mango tree beside his childhood home. It wasn't a grand ceremony. No white dress. No massive guest list. Just a few friends. A warm breeze. Laughter. And a new name. Not the one Clara tried to bury. Not the one the market people mocked. But the one I had reclaimed. Grace. Not mad girl. Not poor thing. Not damaged. Grace. A name I chose again. A name I carried with pride. A name that reminded me I had fallen and risen. Not because I was strong, but because I was loved. I wore a simple cream dress and a red bead necklace my mother once owned. My hands didn't tremble as I placed the ring on David's finger. My voice didn't shake as I said, I do. Because I knew now. Love wasn't just about fireworks and fairy tales. It was about choosing someone again and again, even on the days the fog returns. Even when the mirror reflects old wounds. David chose me in my silence. He chose me when I screamed in the night. He chose me before I could choose myself. And I chose him now, not as a rescuer but as my partner. In our home, We framed one of the journal entries I wrote during recovery. Healing is not becoming who I was before. It's becoming someone I've never been. Free. Years passed. The town forgot the scandal. Children no longer pointed. New faces moved in. But sometimes in the market I still see the old women glance at me. They whisper. Not with fear now but with awe. She came back, they say. She's the one. And I smile. Not because I need their approval but because I know the truth. I was never crazy. I was never cursed. I was wounded. And I healed. One night, sitting on the porch beside David, I turned to him and asked, "Do you still see her?" "Who?" "The girl from the streets. The mad one." He looked at me, eyes full of quiet strength, and said, "No. I see you, the woman who walked through fire and still bloomed." I leaned into his shoulder, watched the stars, and felt something I never thought I'd feel again. Wholeness. Not perfection. Not forgetfulness. But wholeness. And peace. That was the night I stopped answering to shame. That was the night I stopped apologizing for surviving. That was the night I finally knew. I am grace. I was always grace. And nothing, no poison, no betrayal, no madness, will ever change that again.